the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday, January 14th. I hope everybody's having a great week. And thanks for being here. All right, so we're going to cover, some of the stories that we've been covering for the last week or so. We're going to talk more about them, ICE, Iran, Greenland, and we'll see where it takes us. I have a hard stop at 5 o'clock, so we'll probably go an hour and a half or something like that. Of course, your questions are crucial because you get to shape the show. You get to determine what I talk about. So bring up any issue, any questions you have, disagreements, whatever. Put them into the super chat. It's a great way also to support the show. In addition to, asking a question and getting to shape the content of the show. All right, let me see. I think we're all good. All right, so let's talk a little bit about ICE in Minnesota. Take a little bit of a step back, and also see what Donald Trump has to say about ICE in Minnesota. What we've gotten in terms of the killing so far is it seems pretty clear that the feds are going to do nothing about the killing or the murder of Good. It really does seem like they are just moving on, and there's according to the Department of Justice, there is no basis to prosecute. This is a government. We have a government that can never admit to doing wrong. They can do no wrong. So they have figured out, just like with the January 6th, they figured out, all right, they do something, people object to it and upset and everything, and they just move forward. They just say tough and just move forward. And people don't, people never make them pay. So I think the attitude in Washington, D.C. right now is, yeah, who cares? We're just going to keep going. And unless they think that it's going to lead to some loss in the primaries or something like that, or in the election this year for Congress, they're just not going to act. There's just nothing's going to be done. So forget about the rule of law. There is no rule of law anymore. There is no prosecuting people based on whether they commit a crime or not. Everything is politics. And the reality is this administration has estimated that they gain nothing from admitting they're wrong. They gain nothing from putting an ICE agent on trial. They gain nothing from any of that, and therefore they'll just ignore it. And, Miller came out today and basically said, he basically gave a green light to ICE agents to do whatever they want to do. Whatever they want to do. He basically said they have full immunity, that they are, doing their job. He didn't quite use these terms, but they're doing God's work. And in doing God's work, you do what you have to do in order to get what needs to get done. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. And the rest of us need to shut up and stop obstructing and cooperate and just hand over IDs and bow before the man and let ICE do their job. And what does this mean to the thugs that work for ICE? What does it mean to the actual ICE agents when obviously a senior person from inside the White House is telling them, you got full immunity. We're not going to prosecute somebody who just shot a woman in the face 3 times, point blank. We're not going to prosecute him. What will we prosecute? As long as you're doing your job, as long as what you're doing is in an attempt to I don't know, round up illegal immigrants, you can get away with anything. You can get away with anything. And look, this is just a dress rehearsal. I really think this is just a dress rehearsal. I've come to believe that this administration is a lot more evil than I ever thought it was. This is a dress rehearsal for putting agents out in the street for whatever this administration wants. Trump just the other day said that he regrets not sending the military in to confiscate the ballots after the 2020 election. Well, what happens if the election doesn't go his way and he can send ICE agents in to confiscate the ballots? And they got full immunity because the Department of Justice is no longer functioning as even a semblance of justice. The Department of Justice is just there to justify whatever Trump wants and to go after people that Trump dislikes. There's no justice. There's no rule of law. There is Trump and his whims. And if Trump might be occasionally hesitant to use the full muscle that he has available to him, well, we certainly know that Miller is not. Miller has no qualms. He doesn't believe in our system of government and has zero qualms about going after the people he views as the enemy. And who does he view as an enemy? Well, basically anybody who disagrees, anybody who objects, anybody who says no. So we have an administration here that is committed to using muscle, to using the force of the state to bring us to heel, And they're basically saying it now because there's nothing can be done to them. Miroslav says, Department of Justification. That's good. Yep. Justify what Trump does. That's the job. And of course, to go after his enemies. Here's Donald Trump yesterday. And just before I say this, notice that they're putting out lists. You might have seen these lists of all the criminals they've arrested, all the child rapists and murderers and people they've arrested who are, for whatever reason, are here illegally and haven't been deported, and they've arrested. And I don't know, there are 3 dozen people on this list. And good. I mean, yeah, arrest those people. But that's not what this is about. The numbers that the kind of benchmarks that ICE has to achieve has nothing to do with murderers and rapists and so on. Yes, they're going to find some of those. And I don't know if you even to believe the list that that ICE has, that the Homeland Security has put out. But yeah, they're going to be some bad guys. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to harass all of us. The purpose is to show who the boss is, to show who is in charge. The purpose is to bring the enemies of this administration to heel. The purpose is to break you, who might object to the government taking over. And they'll produce the list. They'll try to justify it. They'll try to rationalize it. And as Trump does in the statement, here's the statement. Do the people of Minnesota really want to live in a community in which they are thousands, right, of already convicted murderers, drug dealers, and addicts, rapists, violent, released and escaped prisoners, dangerous people from foreign mental institutions and insane asylums, and other deadly criminals too dangerous even to mention? Now, thousands, not a few, not a couple of dozens, thousands. And we're looking for them. And we have to harass every single one of them in order to find them. To continue, all the patriots of ICE want to do is to remove them from your neighborhood and send them back to the prisons and mental institutions from where they came. Most in foreign countries who illegally entered the U.S. through sleepy Joe Biden's horrible open borders policy. Every place we go, crime comes down. In Chicago, despite a weak and incompetent governor and mayor fighting us all the way, big improvement was made. Thousands of criminals were removed. Minnesota Democrats love the unrest that anarchists and professional agitators are causing because it gets the spotlight off the $19 billion that has been stolen by really bad and deranged people. And here now, all cap. Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. Now, what reckoning? With what? And retribution? Towards whom? Retribution? The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. Now, that sounds pretty ominous. You think things are bad now in Minnesota, just wait. Just wait. And by the way, just the other day, Trump was saying that really, in reality, if you take away all the fraud and all the bad stuff, all the other things, he won Minnesota big time, all 3 elections. He literally claimed this in one of his interactions with the press. He won Minnesota big time, by big margins, not little margins, big margins. Minnesota's really his country. This is why, congressmen and the senators and the governor and the mayors are all Democrats. But he won, right? Officially, he lost all 3 elections. And he says this, and he says it with such a straight face and with such confidence that I'm sure a lot of people believe in. And the reality is that there are a lot of Americans who support this insanity. I mean, there's a story on Twitter right now. You have to take it with some caveats, but it seems true that in a small town outside of Minneapolis, where it's true, the population is more conservative, that ICE agents arrested supposedly an illegal immigrant at a grocery store, and the people in the store cheered them on. Now, we have a number of eyewitnesses saying that's the case, but it's hard to tell. But I wouldn't be surprised. There are people who support it. There are people who want to see every illegal immigrant, even the ones that are working and providing services, they want them arrested and kicked out. We'll get to some of the consequences of that later on in the show. But they want them out. But we should all wonder what reckoning and retribution, where that's heading and what that means. We're seeing more and more videos come out of Minnesota of ICE harassing, people who are videotaping them, people who are just yelling at them. They're harassing them. Whether you obstruct or not, don't obstruct, you're going to be harassed. Right? And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. There are people online claiming the fraud in Minnesota is not Somali fraud. It's really the Jews are behind it. So you got that to deal with that as well. It's going to get worse, and of course the situation is such that the feds are not backing down. The federal government is all guns blazing, and they are sending another 1,000 agents in, and they're going to sweep through Minneapolis. Now, if you think about it, think about it this way. When you think illegal immigrants, like illegal immigrants. What are the places in the United States that pop into your mind? I mean, where do most illegal immigrants reside? Minnesota? I mean, I'm sure there's some, maybe quite a few, but a big chunk? When I think illegal immigrants, I think California. I think Texas. I think most of the South. Carolinas. I mean, maybe New York. But really, a lot of the southern states, the Hispanic populations are going through the roof. I'd like to see, I mean, why isn't ICE in Texas? Why isn't ICE harassing people in Texas? Because, you know, most of those people they harass might not be leftists. Why are they in blue states more than they are in red states? Because the target is not illegal immigrants. The target is the harassment of people on the left. Imagine if they shot somebody who turned out to be a conservative. But no, they're going to go for political reasons to Minnesota. Big chunk of the reason they're in Minnesota is because of the Somali immigrant fraud that's happening there. But the emphasis on the Somali immigrant fraud, the blowing it up, as bad as it is, and it is awful, blowing it even into bigger proportions, is because it's Somalis. A, they're immigrants. B, they're black. That's not a good combination. Not going to get very far in life in America of today with that combination. So the right has made a field day out of Minnesota. Not talking so much about the warfare fraud in Mississippi or in pretty much every other city and state in the Union. Not talking about those. Minnesota, because it's Somalis and because it's a blue state. So harassing the left, making the left look bad, and, you know, going after immigrants. Yeah, I mean, that makes anybody on the right's day. You know, how can they complain? And look, you know, people like Ilhan Omar, yeah, who the hell wants her? So, and who the hell wants the real fraud that happened? It really is nasty. So they use a legit pretense to do very illegitimate things. Somalis who've already received refugee status, their refugee status is just being revoked. And now they're suddenly illegal immigrants. And now they're being rounded up. And they're sending to deportation camps in Texas. Right. In the meantime, both Minnesota and Illinois have sued, demanding that ICE be forced to leave the state. Part of that, you know, so they've sued in federal court. So far, judges denied any kind of immediate temporary restraining order before the first in the first hearing of the Minnesota lawsuit. We'll see how that lawsuit prevails. As I said a minute ago, the Trump administration basically revoked the temporary protection status of roughly 2,500 Somali immigrants. So they lose their legal status. They lose their work permits. They automatically become illegal immigrants. They automatically get rounded up. It's an easy way to take away people's legal status, and they get rounded up. Where are they going to go exactly? I guess most of you don't care because they don't belong here anyway, right? According to so many of you. By the way, I found it interesting, the list of people that, you know, that ICE rounded up in Minnesota that are murderers and criminals and so on. You know, I looked over the list, and you know, Trump claims they all come over when Biden was president. But many of them committed crimes like a decade ago during Trump's first term, some of them, and haven't been deported. They've all got deportation things. So why didn't Trump deport them, in the first round when he was president? But it's, you see, that's a tactic. Blame everything on Biden. Biden is the enemy. Nobody likes Biden. Everybody hates him anyway. So, yeah, I mean, here, this one guy, has a deportation order on him since 2018. If I remember right, Trump was president back then. Another guy, a low-Asian illegal immigrant, was convicted of sexual assault and whatever, with a deportation order since 2006. None of this is Biden. Another one, deportation order since 2004. I mean, it's ridiculous if you have a deportation order that haven't been deported. So there's some breakdown in the 2012, 2003, 1996. Most of these are from Laos. A Mexican for 2016. Well, Trump. Right. This one has a deportation order. A deportation order since June 2025. Who's been president since June 2025? A Mexican illegal convicted of homicide who has previously deported. So he's illegally here. Deportation order since 2009. I'm just reading these. It's just fascinating how few of them, almost none of them, are Biden. None of them are Biden. Now, it is weird that some of them, have really heinous crimes, and why they're allowed to be free in spite of having been convicted, I assume, and having a deportation order. How they were allowed to be free, I just don't get it. So something's broken in the system. But by the way, all these people, as far as I can tell, the government knew where they lived and went and arrested them. None of these people, required the stopping of people walking in their neighborhood and demanding IDs. Like, people are being demanded. You're walking around your neighborhood, middle of the afternoon, you stop by ICE, show me an ID, and you say to them, I don't need to show an ID. And they go, well, if you don't show an ID, I'm going to put you in the back of the car, and we're going to figure out what your ID, where you're from. And, yep, look, you have no legal right to do that. I don't have to show an ID. Well, we don't. We're going to do it anyway. And by the way, were you born in the United States? Well, that's irrelevant. I'm a U.S. citizen. I don't need to show an ID. That's the law. Well, we're going to put you in the back of the van anyway and check your ID. Well, if you do that, you will be acting illegally. You have no authority to do so. And, these dialogues are happening all over America right now, particularly Minnesota, but all over America now. And the government's not going to stop. The government's not going to stop. And can we really frame this as all the people resisting are leftist? Well, if you're in Minnesota, maybe, but if you're in Texas, probably not. Maybe that's why you don't want to go to Texas. So, yeah, I mean, again, I feel like I repeat myself, but I feel like I need to repeat myself because we need to just hammer this stuff home. These are, I called them stormtroopers. There's a sense in which I think they are stormtroopers. They're the testing ground. They're the testing ground of authoritarians. People like J.D. Vance and Miller are looking and watching very, very closely. And I'm sure some people on the left are looking at this very, very closely. What can we get away with? What can a federal policing power get us? What will the American people do as we push the boundaries? Okay, we shot somebody. There's some argument that some people can make for self-defense. Okay, so you don't need much of an argument, just a little bit of an argument. What if we push it more? She was a leftist. What else can we do and get away with? And note that, there's very little states can do. What is Minnesota going to do? Are they going to send out the National Guard? Are they going to send out the cops? Is there going to be a shootout between the cops and ICE? Probably not. Probably not. Yep. Yeah, so somebody says it's hard for me to join the anti-ICE protests when many of them wake up fears. I know, I'm sympathized. I wouldn't. If they woke up fears, I wouldn't join them. It's part of the problem. The only people standing up against ICE are leftists. So it becomes leftist, authoritarian statists versus rightist authoritarian statists. And where is the voice for anybody sane who's anti-statism? All right. By the way, to their credit, a number of prosecutors, federal prosecutors in Minnesota, have quit, just resigned over the shooting and the way the investigation is being treated. The first assistant U.S. attorney, that's the top federal attorney in Minneapolis, and at least 5 other lawyers resigned amid White House pressure to focus the probe into an ICE officer's shooting of a mother on her actions, right? And her actions, and those of people around her. So it looks like the feds are going to go after the woman who died's wife, not after the cop, not after the ICE agent. And as a consequence of that, these 5 U.S. attorneys in Minneapolis resigned. And I think right now, my view is, if you're an honest, rule of law, FBI agent, employee of Homeland Security, U.S. attorney working for the Justice Department, you need to quit. You need to quit. That I think would be the most effective thing that can happen right now, is that the people who disagree with this, and many of them might even be Republicans. Hopefully, many of them are Republicans. They need to quit. They need to stop sanctioning this government. They need to stop sanctioning the Department of Justice leadership. They need to stop sanctioning the actions of this government. Yep. Keep it to Trump loyalists. Make this all about just Trump loyalists, because the reality is that they're getting their way anyway, and the better people are being forced to do the work. This is why these U.S. attorneys in Minneapolis resigning is a good sign, even though they're going to be replaced by Trump loyalists who are going to do the stuff. But imagine you're an attorney and you don't believe you should go after the wife of the woman who's just been murdered, and you have to do it just so you can stay in a position because you want to avoid Trump loyalists. Well, you become a Trump loyalist by actually doing what Trump demands. Trump, in the meantime, has ramped up enforcement push for undocumented Somali immigrants, and how many of them are going to be criminals? It's going to be a small number, but those are the people you are going to see represented everywhere. That is going to be the excuse that they use to justify this. All right, let's switch over to Yaron. Let me just say, if you have a question, I see people asking me questions in the chat. If you have a question, the way to ask the question is by using the Super Chat feature. You can do it for $2. So it's not an issue of it being too expensive. But if you have a question, just put it into the Super Chat and ask it, and I promise I will answer all the questions being asked. All right, situation in Iran is not changing really. It's not getting any better. I did see photos of continued demonstrations yesterday in fewer cities, but it does seem like in Tehran there were still large demonstrations yesterday. As I think I told you yesterday, the estimates of how many people killed, murdered by the regime only seem to be increasing from 2 to 12 to now maybe 20. More and more voices are condemning the Iranian regime, at least in politics. You're still not seeing any of the kind of leftist voices that that went after Israel. You're not seeing any of those voices condemning the regime, but you are seeing more and more political voices condemning Iran. The Trump administration, or President Trump himself, continues to call for the Iranians to continue to demonstrate and has said that the Iranians would pay a big price. And a lot of rumors about when this will happen and how it'll happen. And certainly Israeli media seems convinced that Trump will do it, will actually do it. It's not clear, though, what he'll actually do. There's a lot of conflicting information about what he will actually do. Nobody knows. He says help is on the way, but it's not clear what that help is going to look like. He's coming under a lot of pressure, Trump is, from the Qataris and the Saudis not to do anything. Qatar serves, I mean, a lot of its positioning in the world is as a bridge between the Iranian regime and the rest of the world. The Saudis, at the end of the day, while the Saudis despise this Iranian regime and worry about it, and it's ultimately their enemy, I'm not sure they want it to fall. They want it weak, but I'm not sure they want it to fall, because what happens if they fall? Well, a lot of oil enters the global market. If sanctions are lifted over Iran and oil just flows out of there, oil prices could really come down. I mean, I think a big part of Trump's motivation to go after Iran is to see oil prices go down. They'll go up in the short run because of uncertainty, but they will ultimately come down if the Iranian regime falls, and they'll come down a lot, and because that's a whole big chunk of oil coming onto market. And Saudi Arabia right now needs the money. They've got all these development, they're building cities, they're building stuff. They need the money. And, Saudi Arabia does not exactly run a tight fiscal ship. Most of the people in Saudi Arabia are pretty poor. And Saudi Arabia basically bribes them with oil money to stay peaceful. Well, they need that money to keep flowing. So Saudis, I'm not sure the Saudis want Iran. It would it would reduce their power over oil prices. But more than that, a conflict between the United States and Iran could easily lead to Iran attacking Saudi Arabia. Iranian drones could take out the big refineries in Saudi Arabia. It wouldn't be that hard. They have air defense systems, American air defense systems, but you can imagine a swarm of ballistic missiles, a swarm of drones overwhelming that and taking out much of Saudi Arabia's oil-producing capacity. Saudi Arabia is really worried about that. And, they're worried about the United States' willingness and ability and consistency and to defend them, as I think any ally of the United States should be worried about it. I worry that Israel is not worried about it, right? That Israel takes the American support for it for granted. I don't think they should. I don't think that support is necessarily forthcoming in the future. So what Trump does is hard to tell. A lot of the influences around Trump are, how do we put it? Influenced incentivized by the Qataris to behave themselves, to lobby for Qatar. And in this case, lobby against an attack on Iran. A lot of MAGA is against an attack on Iran. So while he did do it last time, it was limited. It was the nuclear facilities that had already been weakened by Israel, and it was delimited. And once he did it, he stopped the Israelis and thus cut a deal, in a sense, with the Iranians to limit their response. I'm not sure he could do the same today. Vance clearly, I'm sure, is against an attack on Iran. So it's really hard to tell what is actually going to happen and what he's actually going to do. And will he do anything? Will he do something weak? Will he do something so weak that the Iranians don't respond? Will he cut a deal tit for tat like he did last time with the Iranians? I just don't know. I just don't know. Finally, in terms of the situation in Iran itself, look, I really do think this regime in Iran's days are numbered, no matter what Trump does. Partially, as I laid out yesterday, because just the economy is collapsing. The regime's levers, it has very few levers other than guns. But at some point, they won't be able to pay their own soldiers. And then the soldiers will turn against them. Right now, the reporting is that 5 Iranian banks are on the brink of collapse. That includes Bank SEPA, which is one of Iran's 3 largest banks, and the primary bank of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian military, which could make it very difficult for those entities to pay their soldiers. And once you stop paying soldiers, you lose their loyalty very, very quickly. The way to secure the loyalty of the military is to make the military rich by stealing assets from the private sector and giving it to the military. That's how it's done in Egypt. That's how it was done in Venezuela. And that way the military stays quiet. They have no interest in regime change. But once they can't do it, they turn against you. The Iranian central bank is printing money to continuously loan to Iranian banks, thus helping them stay afloat. But what does that cause? Well, an Iranian currency that had already plummeted is basically, you get spiraling inflation. The more money you print, the more inflation you will get. The worse the economy will go. And then what happens? So this regime does not have much long, I don't think, to survive. Indeed, much of the current problem started when a large bank, the Ayn Rand Bank, which was run by a bunch of regime cronies and saddled with nearly $5 billion in losses and piles of bad loans, they went bust late last year. And that has kind of trickled through the banking system, caused the central bank to print up huge amounts of money to try to keep the banks afloat, caused the local currency to completely collapse, which caused the bazaar, the shopkeepers, to go on strike, which led to the demonstrations. So it often starts with banks. It often starts with inflation. And there's every reason to believe this regime's days are numbered. Dollar reserves, are way down from where they were. They have no economy other than the oil they pump out. And again, I've said in the past, if the oil workers go on strike, that could be the decisive thing, one of the decisive things that tilt us into a tipping point to the collapse of the regime. But we will see. We will see. All right. From Iran to Greenland. God, the differences are stark. 92 million people to, what, 50,000, 55,000? Greenland is now, the topic. The foreign minister of Greenland and of Denmark are meeting, I think as we speak, with Vance and Rubio. It's not good that they're meeting with Vance. Vance is like, yeah, we're going to take Greenland. What are you going to do about it? Basically, Trump has said, Trump was asked earlier today, he was told, the Prime Minister of Greenland doesn't want the United States to take over. And he said, who? So the Prime Minister said, I don't know who that is. That's basically his problem. Greenland will be ours. He doesn't care what the people in Greenland think or want. It has no relevance. He's a Viking, as I told you yesterday. He's just going to take what he wants. The European Union, as in the old Viking, as much of Europe dealt with the Vikings of the past, the European Union is scrambling to find ways to bribe Trump not to do it, not to just take Greenland. So they're saying they want to find a way to allow Trump to declare victory, without him actually taking Greenland for turning it into part of the United States. So, for example, they're proposing that NATO significantly boost Arctic security, increase the presence of American troops, which already are there, in Greenland, deploy more NATO troops from Europe onto Greenland, and deploy more naval assets over there. Or, give the U.S. mining concessions for the minerals in Greenland. By the way, there's a reason the minerals in Greenland have not been exploited, have not been mined. You know why? They're hard to get to. It's like Greenland. It's really, really, really cold. And there are other places that have these kind of minerals that you can easier get to. But okay, if Trump really insists, we'll mine them anyway, we'll lose money on them, and we'll mine them anyway. Right? The Europeans are convinced that they can come to some kind of common conclusion with the Trump administration. They think they can find a mutually acceptable solution by basically groveling to Trump. And maybe they can. Maybe they can. Today, as I said, they're having a what they're calling an honest conversation with the administration, that is with Rubio and Vance, around Iceland. And, we'll see what they say. But basically, the indications are from everybody except Rubio, is basically the administration has signaled that they want Greenland, and by hook or by crook, one way or another, they will get Greenland. And they are certainly not ruling out the use of force, even if it means the disbanding of NATO, in order to get Greenland. So, that's where we're heading. One diplomat said, if you can smartly repackage Arctic security, blend in critical minerals, put a big bow on top, there's a chance. So, Europe's pretty frantic about this. I mean, I don't think originally they thought Trump was serious, but I think now they really do think Trump is serious. And I think Trump, as I said yesterday, I think he's on a adrenaline rush from how well Venezuela went and how well the military performed. And he's like feeling it. He's feeling strong. He's feeling, mighty. And I wouldn't be surprised if he attacks Iran and he drops troops into Greenland. Who knows what he'll do? He's on a power trip. All right. Where are we? All right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about trade. A couple of stories. A couple of stories I want to hit. One is I talked about this a few weeks ago. There was a trade deal between EU and South America and Latin America countries, the big Latin American countries, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and some others, and the EU, and farmers, protesters in the EU, and they delayed it, and there was renegotiations, and this is a trade deal that's been negotiated for 26 years. That's how pathetic the Europeans are. But to give them credit, it is now a done deal. So there is a trade pact, which means there is going to dramatically increase trade between Europe and South America. That does include some agricultural products. Now, a lot of this will be phased in over years, but it does mean a dramatic reduction in tariffs in both directions. And this is a win-win-win. It's everybody wins out of this. This is great. As I've told you many times, free trade is the ideal. Managed free trade, that is a slow movement towards lowering tariffs and a zero tariffs, is not ideal, but it's better than the alternative. So we're getting other parts of the world, in a sense, taking advantage of the fact that the United States is stepping away from trade, is less interested in trade. And other parts of the world are engaging in free trade agreements. As I said, this will include Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. I'm surprised Chile is not part of it. But that is the Mercosur, who have a free trade agreement between those four countries. Right? So what you're going to see is more and more regional free trades and then free trade agreements between regions, but all of them cutting the U.S. out. I mean, South America is looking for a free trade agreement with Canada, right? They're looking for free trade agreements with Asia. Some of these, the world is going to keep moving towards free trade as, at least in the short run, as the United States rejects free trade, rejects trade with the rest of the world. All right. In the meantime, with China, China just announced that it has a trade surplus, right? A trade surplus that is a 2025 trade surplus is a all-time record. It's the largest trade surplus they've ever had. So with all the trade war they've engaged with the United States, or the United States engaged with them, in spite of that, China is exporting more than it ever has before. Indeed, the surplus hit $1.2 trillion. Basically, everything they didn't export to the United States, they found other countries to export it to. Those countries are seeing declining prices, whereas the United States is seeing in those products that are not coming in from China, rising prices. Now, the prices will rise and then they'll stop rising. The tariff is a one-time price hit, but it takes months for the price for the hit to get priced in. We're probably looking at early this year, sometime around the first, second quarter, before prices from tariff goods will stop rising, at least in the short run. But the rest of the world is getting a price decrease. So if this was intended to weaken Chinese industrial capacity, it has not exactly succeeded. If this was intended to reduce the amount of dollars flowing into China, that has not been successful. China continues to manufacture huge quantities to be the manufacturing hub of the world. And as I said, record level of trade surplus, 1.2 trillion, not billion, trillion. Okay. So China's exports to the United States have plummeted 20% last year, right? And they import from the United States down 14.6%. So they're diverting goods to Europe. Germany is importing a huge amount of Chinese goods. And they're importing a huge amount, exporting a huge amount to Asia, other countries in Asia. And, I think the world trade will be rejiggered, restructured. World production will be rejiggered and world structured. And the United States is paying at least a significant price for all of that. We're selling fewer things to China. Ask the farmers, the farmers out there, soybean farmers, how much soybeans they've sold to China this year as compared to regular years. And of course, we're importing less from China, which means we're having to pay higher prices for the stuff we either make in the United States or import from other parts of the world. All right. I mean, a consequence of a lot of this, a consequence of kind of the state of America is that a lot of people are either, and the consequence of the attitude toward immigration is that a lot of people are either leaving the United States or not coming here to begin with, who would have otherwise. What we're seeing right now is a real brain drain. A real brain drain from the United States. We're seeing Chinese students, graduate students, PhD students, who traditionally would have stayed in the US, gone into academia, maybe gone into industry, and worked on science and engineering projects. Well, now, given the hostility towards immigrants, and added to that, the hostility towards funding of science, many of them are going back to China. So whereas almost all of the top people in AI in the United States today, almost every one of them, is an immigrant. In the future, there won't be any of those top people because those top people are disincentivized from staying. Indeed, Trump's actual national security program actually makes this very explicit. Right? It basically says that, here it is. I've got the. This is a national security strategy. Quote: "We cannot allow meritocracy to be used to justification to open America's labor market to the world in the name of finding global talent that undercuts American workers. In our every principle and action, America and Americans must always come first. Not future Americans, not people who might become Americans, current Americans. And ideally, heritage Americans. That's me, that's on the document. So America's not interested in the Einsteins of the world coming to America. America's not interested in all those rocket scientists who came in America after World War II. America's not interested in the, Soviet engineers who immigrated to the United States, escaping the Soviet Union. America's not interested in the biotech and AI and quantum engineering students coming from China. No, we don't want you. We don't want you. That is the message the Trump administration is sending in its national security document. We don't want you. And that talent will go somewhere else. The talent is in demand. Many countries now are setting up funds to attract American talent or talent that would have traditionally gone to America is not going to go to them. And the worst of that, the scariest of that, is China, which is not only attracting Chinese talent back. I told you about the scientist who was working on mRNA vaccines. A Chinese immigrant to the United States, an American working in America, doing amazing work in America, packed up, gone to China because he can't get the funds here. He doesn't know what the future of mRNA vaccines are here in the United States. He doesn't feel welcome here. And the Chinese offered him a lot of money. In the past, he would have not gone. Canada has recently announced a $1.7 billion pool to try to attract American scientists, or again, global scientists who might have gone to America usually, to come to Canada. The EU is doing the same. France has a separate strategy. Belgium is doing a separate thing. Now, many of these countries might not be appealing for other reasons, but the United States is so unappealing that they might even consider going to Belgium. Like, who the hell wants to live in Belgium? But offer you good money, and you don't have to deal with ICE. Maybe that's a good deal. In a survey by Nature magazine of 1,200 scientists, they found that 3/4 of those surveyed said they were considering leaving the United States, while applications for U.S. scientists seeking jobs abroad have jumped. If you look at analysis of immigration data from last year, this is from a story by Jerry Sieb on his Substack. Anyway, if you look at immigration data, analysis data, 6,690 Americans applied for Dutch work, family, or study permits, the highest in a decade. And many of the applicants came from trying to get knowledge and talent permits, scientists and engineers. By one measure, graduate student enrollment in American universities is dropped significantly. That's because most graduate students in STEM in the United States are foreign students. Americans, they dominate philosophy and sociology and psychology and all the non-hard sciences, all the non-STEM. STEM is dominated by foreigners. So this process will happen. It's not going to happen quickly. It's not like there are labs and universities out there who can easily absorb a significant number of American academics or scientists leaving. This will happen slowly. But this is a disaster for long-term economic success in the United States. It's a disaster for the globe because I think scientists and engineers are much more productive in the US because it has a better entrepreneurial environment than they are anywhere else in the world. But if they're discouraged from coming here, or if it's made impossible for them to come here, or they're seduced to go elsewhere, they will go, and we all will suffer, not just Americans, but the globe in general. So, whereas for almost all of the last 250 years, the United States was the place where everybody else's brain drain went, where all the best talent from the world escaped. You know, there was a brain drain from the UK in the 1970s. Ayn Rand wrote about this. There was a brain drain from Germany in the 1930s, and then again in the 1950s. There's a brain drain from Russia. A variety of different occurrences. There's been a brain drain from China over the last 30 years. So, it's now our turn, I guess, to be the source of the drain. All right, a couple of good news stories for a change. There's a story out, basically, that more people are surviving from cancer today than ever before. Basically, the 5-year survival rate for cancers has increased from 50 to 70%. So whereas 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, only 50% of people diagnosed with cancer lived past 5 years. Today, that number is 70%. And now there are a lot of reasons for that. Early detection is one of them. Better treatments is another. And 70% recovery and living 5 years is not high enough. We want it to be 99%. But it is definitely progress. It is definitely progress. And it is the consequence of the hard work of many of those scientists who might be leaving us. It is the hard work of scientists. It's the hard work of doctors. It's the emphasis on preventive screening. That has increased significantly in the United States. You catch cancer early. It's much easier to cure than if you catch cancer late. So that is all good news, right? It is all good news. And of course, the fact that people don't smoke anymore has also reduced just the prevalence of cancer and how damaging it is. Lung cancer from smokers, it's a killer. And that has declined dramatically over the last 50 years. All right, and then this one is kind of an interesting story, and partially because it's an interesting story, partially because it was published in The Guardian. The Guardian, for those of you who do not know, is a British newspaper which is on the left. I mean, really on the left, solidly on the left. And yet, this is a story debunking, like, medical hysteria. Here's the bombshell. The bombshell is that there is now doubt being cast. Yeah, we know climate change, but now this is different. This is not climate change. There's doubt being cast on the idea that there are microplastics throughout your body slowly killing you, and you should stop eating plastics. Do any of you eat plastics? But you should stop using plastics, because little bits of plastics, microscopic bits of plastics, are dropping from the plastic bottles you drink from, or the forks, or the straws, or whatever it is, and they get into your body, and they wreak havoc, and your brain is filled with microplastics. Filled with microplastics. Anyway, there's high-profile studies are being published that are basically questioning the presence of microplastics throughout the human body, and are throwing doubt by scientists who say the discoveries of the microplastics are probably the result of contamination and false positives. One chemist called the concerns about microplastics, about the studies about microplastics, a bombshell. Studies have claimed to have revealed micro and nanoplastics in the brain, testes, placentas, arteries, and elsewhere. And they've been reported extensively by the media. And indeed, my doctor was concerned because I drink a lot of water out of plastic bottles, and I might have microplastics all over my body. I'm going to send her this article. And, while there's a lot of plastic out there flowing into the ocean and, polluting stuff, it's really not clear that there are any health risks and damage from the plastics that we actually consume to human beings. People are flipping out over this. For example, the tests for microplastic residue in the brain, for example, often just it's not identifying the residue of the plastic. It's often just identifying fat. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of fat in your brain. So fat is known to make false positives for polyethylene. Fat is known to make false positives with polyethylene. So when the researchers went and they found lots of polyethylene in the brain, they flipped out. But it turns out that about 60% of your brain is fat. That's depressing somehow. I don't like that thought. I know it just is what it is, but God, my brain is fat. That just doesn't sound right. Well, if it's fat and you can't really differentiate between the two, then what are we doing? A new study, a scientist looking at that study has said recently, that study is really bad. And it is very explainable why it is wrong. So, I mean, what I find interesting here is not that another scientific hysteria about we're all going to die is shown to be false. I like those studies. Those are all good. I celebrate all that. But what amazes me and what I find is good news is that it was published in The Guardian, a bastion of the left. So that's got to be a good sign. It means that the evidence is so overwhelming, even The Guardian can't overlook it. Oh, sorry, I closed the window with the study already. So if you're interested in the name of the study, check out the Guardian magazine, the Guardian newspaper. Let me see, maybe I can open it up. But it is why can't I find it? No, there it is. Okay, let's see. If I can tell you what the study is. So it's okay, so that's the study that shows the other. Here's a Matters Arise letter. It's the Matters Arise letter is in Nature Medicine. It's challenges in studying microplastics in human brain. So it's in Nature Medicine. It's in a section called Matters Arising. I guess that's where you challenge existing. And the paper is called Challenges in Studying Microplastics in Human Brain. But my understanding is there are now a number of papers challenging the general research on the dangers of microplastics more broadly. Somebody says that some brains are fattier than others. I don't even want to hear that. I mean, and what are we? How are we gonna measure this? And then we start fat shaming people's brains? I mean, I don't know. There's something very off-putting about fat brains, and funny at the same time. All right, guys, that is the news for this Wednesday, January 14th. I hope. I hope you gain some value from that. We will now move to our answering Super Chat questions. We are below our target for the first hour. We're already in the second hour, so just I'm mentioning that. So I'm looking for about $62 to make the first hour goal. So please consider a sticker or a question or a Super Chat or whatever. Don't forget, you can support the show on a regular basis with Patreon. Patreon.com, Yaron Brook Show. Become a monthly supporter. Hugely valuable. I will be, I think, early next week announcing the OPA study group and the pricing and the logistics and how to do it and all of that. But I'm still working on that, so I'm hoping next week we'll have information about when we will launch the OPA study group and how much it will cost. Let's see, what else did I want to tell you? Yes. Ayn Rand Institute, we have a conference at Porto in April. I'll be speaking there. Ankar, Nikos, and Taltzfani, all going to be there. It should be great. And by the way, Porto is a beautiful city, and you should all come, particularly if you're in Europe. There are a lot of cheap flights into Porto. I think Ryanair flies a lot of flights into Porto, so you can come. It's cheap, and the conference is going to be fun. You can get a discount on the conference by using discount code 26YBS10, 26YBS10. It gives you a 10% discount, and you can find all the information about the conference and how to get the discount or how to sign up for it at AynRand.org, AynRand.org/start here, AynRand.org/start here. All right, Alex Epstein, the leading thinker, commentator in the world right now on all things to do with energy. has a Substack, alexepstein.substack.com. He's also the number one lobbyist. He has a lobby entity, organization, the number one lobbyist for freedom in energy, or freedom to build, or freedom of industry, freedom. So, it's the only organization I know of that's consistently lobbying for freedom. That's the standard, freedom in a particular area. Not favor this group over that group, this organization versus that organization. Just leave us alone. So check out Alex Epstein. Alex Epstein.substack.com. And check out defendersofcapitalism.com. Defendersofcapitalism.com. It's an organization set up by Michael Williams. I speak for them. We defend capitalism. And check out their programs, check out their website. I'm a regular speaker at their programs, at Leadership Program in the Rockies. All right, let's see. I'll remind you again, Patreon. I remind you, those of you here live, to like the show. Just press the like button. It really helps the algorithm. So if you care about the show, if you get any value from the show, please just press the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no cost involved. But it really helps. If you're not a subscriber, then subscribe. Easy as well. Doesn't cost you anything. And you'll just find out every time we post a video, and you'll know about it. Doesn't mean you have to click through to it, but at least you'll know it's there. So like, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to come here on the Super Chat and support the efforts, support what we do, support these new shows. All right, let me thank some of the sticker people. We've got Henrik. Thank you, Henrik. Really appreciate it. We've got Krill. Thank you, Krill. And those are, Henrik is from Norway, and Krill is from the Czech Republic. And we've got, let's see, who else has done a sticker? We've got 101 lakes, or something like that, or 1,010 lakes. That's Indian rupee, just to give you a sense of the diversity. Not that that's these days a good word, but just the globalist nature of the Yaron Brook show. Ooh, it turns out I'm a globalist. Anyway, Harper Campbell's an American. That's unusual. C.P. Milken, an American. But we have Indians and Norwegians and Czech and all over and Israelis and all over. Newly Dan, I think an American as well, paying in dollars. Canadians, God forbid. Even Canadians. We got Swiss francs coming in from Switzerland. And, we've even got pound sterling from the UK. So, yes, this is, and we've got philosophical detective is in Ethiopia. This is a global show. We are here not to change America. We're here to change the world. Change the world. So, Nick, thank you as well for the sticker. So, and Greg, thank you. So join us in trying to change the world, having an impact all the way to Ethiopia. That's great. What do you do in Ethiopia? God, I would say come to America, but you can't probably, and you won't be welcome here. I don't know. God, Ethiopia. But there are opportunities in Ethiopia these days. The economy is doing fairly well. And, so it's not as bad as it used to be, would be my guess. We'll see if he answers from Ethiopia. All right, let's go to our Super Chat. Paul says, have you heard about Senator Bernie Moneo from Ohio proposed the Exclusive Citizenship Act of 2025, which ends dual citizenship? What's your opinion? Well, I think it's horrible. Why is it the business of the government if you have dual citizenship? I mean, if you're disloyal, if you're committing treason, try me for treason. But, look, get as many citizenship as you can. Passports are valuable. Look, I'm an egoist. I'm a patriot, but I'm an egoist. And I'm a patriot for an America that seems to be fading. But I'm an egoist. And it's clearly in my self-interest to have many passports. It makes travel easier, cheaper, and it makes running away easier if that is necessary. And the more things that you're in the United States, left or right, it becomes more relevant. Okay? So, if you're an egoist, your standard is not what does the government want. The standard is not some loyalty test. The standard is what's good for your life. And just like, it might, for many of us, it's not good for our life to stay in the place we were born. I think immigration is a crucial freedom, for every human being on the planet should have the freedom to immigrate. Yeah, assuming they're not a criminal and don't intend ill to the country that they're moving to. So, a philosophical detective, while he was born in Ethiopia, says he's considering coming to America but he's reconsidering it now. He's considered it. He's reconsidering it now because of what is happening. In spite of the fact that the U.S. is where it's at, where things are happening, all this bad stuff is, it's the freest. I don't know if it's freest by any standard. I wouldn't say by any standard. By some standards, it's the freest. There are places that are freer economically. There are places that are freer in other respects. Anyway, I'm a big proponent of dual, triple, quadruple citizenship, if you can get it. If you every one of those citizenships, every one of those countries should demand from you non-treasonous behavior, and your primary place of residence should be the place that where you're taxed and where you abide by the law, where you vote and stuff like that. But I don't see dual citizenship are not. I don't know of any dual citizens that, qua as dual citizens, have hurt America. So it's just another xenophobic, play to the racists, play to the base attempt to rally the forces, and shame on Bernie Moneo for playing that game. Shame, shame, shame. Thomas, did you see the interview with Bolton where he claimed that all the Greenland issues could have been worked out back into 2019 with good, rational diplomatic negotiations? Trump, he said, has totally screwed this up. So I haven't seen it, but I'm not sure what he means. That is, in 2019, the United States could have bought Greenland, could have taken over Greenland. I don't think that's the case. I think he might have meant beefing up security and maybe having access to minerals. But that's not what Trump cares about. That has nothing to do with what Trump cares about. Trump doesn't care about security. He doesn't care about the minerals. Trump cares about the territory. He wants to occupy it. He wants to leave office with America being bigger. He wants to be remembered by history as expanding America. So all these issues about NATO and about security and about minerals, that could be easily dealt with today. But you have to understand that is not what Trump cares about. Never has cared about. Trump wants a legacy, and he wants to have a legacy like, America got Greenland because of Trump. That'll put him in the history books. I mean, more land is good for a Viking. Liam, do mentally ill people really have free will? Is their ability to choose to focus based on delusions inside your head? Since they are disconnected from reality, both determinism and free will don't apply to them. I think that's probably true. But the question is, did they have free will? That is, there's no question that at a certain point, free will becomes irrelevant. You can't access your capacity to do it because of the mental illness. But is the mental illness a consequence? Is the mental illness a consequence of some dramatic change in blood chemistry that makes it impossible for you to act? Or is the mental illness a consequence of choices that you made that have screwed up your ability, to use your cognition? So while I think once you have the mental illness at a certain extent or a certain extreme, you probably can't implement your free will, and that's why drugs or electrocution or something like that might help rebalance the chemicals in the brain and make it possible for you to re-exercise it. It was, for some people, it was free will that led them into that abyss. That is, either the evasions or the choices that they made. Henrik, thank you. Another $20 in Norwegian krone. Really appreciate it, Henrik. It's good to see you here. All right, Jennifer. Trump was at a Ford plant here yesterday, and a guy heckled him, and Trump gave him the finger. It is on video. Very presidential. The Ford employee is suspended for now. Yeah, I mean, why would we expect better of Donald Trump? I mean, he gives us the finger every day in his tweets, basically. He's a vulgar human being. So it doesn't surprise me. And by the way, his base is probably cheering. That's how you go after him. That's how you respond to an evil leftist heckler. They love it. So he plays to them. Michael, a free society depends on objective law, not on individuals being forced to prove their innocence on demand. Absolutely. Absolutely. But the objective law is being ignored by the federal government, which is supposed to be the one that abides by it. And yet it's being ignored. By the way, the Institute for Justice, IJ, is fighting some of these cases and taking when a citizen, I think they've got a case right now where a citizen got detained by ICE. They are taking it to court. They're suing the Trump administration. So, and there might be many, many more suits like that. So it's IJ is together with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Those are the two, other than the Ayn Rand Institute, the only two organizations I would consider financially supporting, because they do amazing work to protect us. P. Gupta, my white local friends don't feel the visceral fear of an encounter with ICE. This is from P. Gupta, who, by the name, I assume is not white. We're required to submit to unconstitutional stopping and questioning because of the color of their skin. It's just horrific. I'm really sorry this is happening to you. It's just not America. It's anti-American. Ryan, can't an administration prosecute him? Can't a new administration prosecute him? There's no statute of limitation on this. Run on that Democrats. I don't know if they win on that, if they win. I don't know what the temperature of the American people is right now. But yes, I assume that they can in the future. But who knows what the future has in store for us? I don't know. It's dicey. Newly Dan, I can now say I know an asylum seeker from my area who has been detained for many months. That's horrible. That's horrible. I mean, I don't agree with asylum law. I don't think people should be allowed in the country just based on asylum. That shouldn't be the criteria. It should be work, as I said. But they're here already, and the law is what it is, and the law allows for asylum seekers. And to change the law midstream in order to detain people and deport people, I think it's just horrific. Mary Eileen, will J.D. Vance be an even worse president than Trump? He seems vicious. What do you think are his chances of being elected in 2028? Yes, I think J.D. Vance would be worse than Trump because J.D. Vance is ideological. He's smart. Trump is not smart. J.D. Vance is smart. J.D. Vance is more evil in that sense than Trump is. And J.D. Vance, I think, has a clear vision of what he wants to make America, whereas Trump doesn't care. Trump is just doing what he's doing. He doesn't really care. So I think he's very, very, and I've said this for years now, he's very dangerous. Right now, I don't think his chances are that good to be elected in 2028 because I don't think the American people are going to buy into him. I think he's too wooden. I think he comes across as too spooky. But you never know, of course. Who would have thought Trump could get elected? And so I think his chances right now are not high, but that means nothing. I've never been very good at assessing probabilities of people getting elected. M. Goodkin, blue cities and states tend to offer more freebies and sanctuary, and yet there are more illegals in red states, maybe with the exception of California. And to the extent that there are more illegal in blues, it's not the freebies, right? Why are there more illegals in California? Not because of the freebies. There are more illegals in California because that's where the jobs are. There are illegals in New York because that's where the jobs are. And Texas, because the jobs in Texas. So illegals go where the work is. And the many of them in red states, and nobody's harassed them. And I don't see ICE going in mass into those red states to go get them. Semenik, so what to do with to counter rising authoritarianism? I mean, look, there's nothing one can do other than speak up. Speak up. Challenge it. Make clear to people that you are not in agreement. That's all you can do. Capitalism makes profits, not healthcare. There is no healthcare without capitalism. Capitalism created healthcare. There is no, there is no medicine, modern medicine, without the capital necessary to invest in hospitals and machinery and science and innovation and technology. You think a CT scan came out of nowhere? It came from businesses trying to make money. So there is no such thing as healthcare without capitalism. And indeed, the entire world is free riding off of the innovation that happens in tiny bit of freedom in the United States in medicine. Rock, is fascism, while just as immoral, more sustainable than communism because it's parasitic instead of suicidal? Maybe. We don't have good examples. I mean, other than Latin America, but that didn't last very long. We don't have a really good example of fascism being sustainable. Look at North Korea, it's communist and sustainable. So it's not clear. They're both suicidal. They both are self-defeating ultimately. It's just a matter of the speed, and I don't know that there's any one mechanism or way to say one always will be faster than the other. 1010 Lakes. Hi, Yaron. Ayn Rand said in a show, only few are capable of experiencing the true love. Are there any levels in love with different levels of knowledge, intelligence, and values of people? Yeah, probably. I mean, it's not like people don't experience anything similar to love. I think Ayn Rand is right. The true love, a full expression of love, requires being a real valuer. And to be a real valuer requires knowledge, not intelligence. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with value orientation and a commitment to using your mind. It means being conceptual. At whatever level, you can be conceptual. You can be a bricklayer and be conceptual. And you can be a astrophysicist, and anything outside of astrophysicist, you're refusing to be conceptual in. You've still got a perceptual level mentality. And, love requires that you be conceptual, you be integrated and be conceptual in your life as a whole. And that is, that's where very few people have it. Wes, thank you for the $50 sticker. Really, really, really appreciate it. And that really gets us much closer to our second hour goal. Thank you. Liam, if ICE demands your ID, should you refuse even if it means getting arrested? I mean, there's no answer to that, right? It depends on the context. Are you on your way to work and there's an important meeting you have to make, and this meeting is going to determine your career? Then yeah, show them the ID and get out of there. The primacy should be the meeting. Is it you're on a week vacation and you're not doing anything really and just hanging around, and if you lose the time, nothing really dramatic is going to happen. No major values are going to be lost. Then yeah, don't give them. And by the way, you probably won't get arrested because they have no right to arrest you. Now, they might detain you for a while, but once they realize that you know the law, once they realize that you're standing up in principle, most of the confrontations I've seen with ICE, they will ultimately walk away after threatening and harassing. They will ultimately walk away because they know they have no leg to stand on. If you say, you have no right to ask me for an ID, I do not have to give you an ID. I am an American citizen, and I will not show you an ID because you have no right to demand one. Ultimately, they will go away. And if they don't, then yeah, you're committing a civil disobedience. It's not even civil disobedience because you're not even breaking the law. Civil disobedience is when you break the law in order to make a point. But there's no law here to be broken. It's just saying, no, I know the law, and you're outside of the law. You are outside the law, not me. You, ICE. Hopper Campbell, why is the Supreme Court holding off on its tariff ruling? I don't know. They were supposed to rule today, and they didn't. I'm very worried. Are they afraid of the wrath of the Orange Viking? Is it possible all tariffs will be thrown out and the stock market will soar? The stock market's not going to soar either way. I just don't think the tariffs are that important for the stock market. But I don't know why they're delaying. I mean, maybe it's because they still haven't made up their mind. Maybe because it's close. Maybe because Roberts is trying to get a consensus. Maybe he's trying to get a bigger majority for whatever ruling it is, and therefore they're having debates internally. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, everybody expected the ruling last week, so I don't know what's going on. Something inside the court is happening. I mean, they really expected this at the end of the year. They expected it before New Year's. Blaze Guitarless says, what do you make of illegals voting in Michigan? From everything I know, there is no evidence that illegals are voting in mass in Michigan. Can you find an occurrence here and there that an illegal voted? Yes. But nowhere near the numbers to sway an election, to make a real difference. So, I mean, I think it's a lot of BS propaganda by Republicans who are trying to, create a situation where we all doubt election outcomes so that they can take over. Generally, I do support the need for people to ID themselves when they vote. I just don't see the downside of that. Everybody has an ID pretty much in the United States. And, some kind of ID, something that can link you to, the person written there in the voter roll. That should, that should be policy across all the states. It's not in many states, but it should be. James, will the American people not tolerate Gestapo-like policing? Intrusive policing is a feature, not a bug of this administration. We'll see. So far, it's not popular, but it's really hard to tell until we actually see an election where people vote on this issue. It's going to be hard to tell how they really feel. I mean, part of the problem is that most of the people obstructing or most of the people resisting ICE are, somebody said, keffiyeh-wearing radical leftists, and nobody likes those people either. So if the opposition to ICE gets associated with the far left, that will not be good. That will be a disaster. Michael, we always thought the left was hate-filled and mindless and cannot be reached, but MAGA is far more ignorant and rabid, and they have greater numbers. I think that's right. I think they have greater numbers. We will see in the months and years to come. But yeah, I agree with you. Not your average algorithm. I'm not sure we can save the world, this world. I'm not sure we can save this particular world either. I think we can change the world in future generations, that world. But who knows? Who knows how long it takes? Kabuto. Aren't we against government funding of science? Yes. But what we're not, and I would favor the government coming and saying we're against funding science. And therefore, we are going to phase out government funding of science over the next 2 years or 4 years or 10 years or whatever it is, right? What I'm against is the government just randomly, deciding we're going to cut government science 20%. We're not against government funding of science. We're actually very much pro-government funding of science. But we're just going to cut a bunch of it. And we're going to cut it primarily in areas we don't like. We're going to cut it primarily to universities that have pissed us off. And we're going to politicize the whole process even more than it's already politicized. So, sure, let's support government cutting funding for science completely, but not in the way it's being done today, and not with any kind of alternative to it, right? If you say we're going to cut government funding of science and we're also going to cut taxes because we're going to cut government spending on 100 other different things, and therefore we're going to leave more money in the hands of people to be able to fund the science. Somebody has to fund it. But the government can't continue to tax us at the rates it does and expect people to fund the sciences as well. So, cut government spending throughout, not just science, ultimately cuts taxes. I believe of all the things government spends money on that are illegitimate, cutting government funding of science is going to be one of the last ones, so that the economy is booming and people have money, and now you cut science and now private people are pouring it in. Or you phase it out over 4 years and you let everybody know it's being phased out. So you let the private sector pick up the losses. Clark, I'm blocking people on Facebook left and right who are supporting ICE. This is a deal breaker for me. I don't care how long I've known you. If you're reinforcing America transforming into a police state, I won't try and change your mind. You're going on my block list permanently. The mindless hatred is astounding. I mean, good for you. I think that's exactly the right approach. Yeah, I mean, this is preparing America for a police state. This is a step in that direction. And we have to make a stand. Otherwise, there's no end to it. And people supporting this are supporting a police state ultimately, all in the name of fighting the left. All in the name of fighting the left. And look, I've warned you about this for a decade. I told you so. It's something you're going to hear a lot from me. Roland says, don't worry about the fat content of your brain. What matters is the ideas it contains. Yeah, but the question is, does the fat content of my brain impact the ideas that I hold? Are the ideas then fat? Yeah, yeah. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. Michael, a lot of people on the right are saying Obama used ICE in the same way and no one complained when he did it. That's just not true. Obama actually deported more people than Trump did, a lot more people than Trump did. But Obama did it at the border. They crossed the border, they went through a proceeding, and they were deported immediately. And he did it, and they pursued criminals and so on. Obviously not very consistently, because there were a lot of people from the Obama era still haven't been deported. But he didn't send, during Obama, you did not have ICE roaming neighborhoods in America, masked, in some cases going door to door, even though that's illegal. I don't remember people being shot. I don't remember people being harassed. Yes, they deported more people because they did it more effectively and because they could deport them at the border. That's where the border police, patrol, whatever you want to call them, belong, at the border. Minnesota, Minneapolis is not at the border. And I'm fine with taking ICE and stationing them, shoulder to shoulder, along the entire Canadian border, particularly in winter. I think that would be really, really good. David, a reminder to call Schiff and get him on the show. As far as I know from his latest podcast, he is at home in Puerto Rico. Do an in-person show with him. I'll have to, I'm going to try to arrange that. Michael says, can you reach out to Destiny and do a show before you begin travel again in 2 weeks? I don't know. I'm hesitant to do anything with Destiny. I mean, some of the stuff that's come out about Destiny and some of the things that he said and some of his behavior and some of the stuff that's in his background, it makes me think it's not a good idea to be too associated with Destiny right now. I like the Schiff angle better. EU needs to make Trump put up or shut up about Greenland. Well, do you really want to put Trump in a corner where he has to do one of those two things? Because I don't think you want to put Trump in corners like that, because I know how he'll behave. Ivitic says appeasement never ends well. I agree with that, but I'm not sure what Europe can do at this point. They're not going to fight him. If he sends troops into Greenland, it's over. Now, I think he should. I think they should let him, in a sense, not fight him, push him, and then let him take over Greenland and see what happens. PSA, 5th of December 25, Augustina Verga-Sid interviewed Josh Wyndham. Yeah, Josh Wyndham is from the Institute of Justice on the ARI's podcast about ICE cases. Perhaps you would make a good guest to have on your show. Yes, I have asked Angela, my assistant, to reach out to Josh. I know Josh. Josh was a law student at, I'm pretty sure it's University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, when he invited me to come and give a talk there. So I gave a talk at the university. So I've known Josh for more than 10 years, I think. So yes, I would love to have him on the show to talk about that. James, if you did a sit-down show with Peter Schiff, you would probably get 10,000 new subscribers overnight. I doubt that very much. Thomas, quote, you may claim the right to kill, as all fighters do, but no one before you has ever thought of forbidding life to those still living. You may claim the right to kill, as all fighters do, but no one before you has ever thought of forbidding life to those still living. It took some time to truly understand what Rand conveyed here. Yep. Your life is not yours. Your life, you do not deserve it. Your life, you know. If Britain and France threatened to use nukes on the U.S. over Greenland, would Trump back down? Probably, but I don't know. But I really don't know. But that never happened, so we'll never know. It just won't happen. Trump might not back down. Actually, he might call them on it, just because it's Trump. All right, guys. Thank you. Really appreciate the support. Thanks to all the super chatters. And I will see you tomorrow, same time. What else do I want to tell you? Yeah, don't forget to become Patreon supporters. Patreon.com, Yaron Brook Show, anywhere from $2 to $1,000. $10 and above get the podcast version of my show with no ads. $25 and above get that. Plus, they also get to be panelists on the Ask Me Anything shows, the video panelists, and they get to be, audio versions of the members only show. So being a $25 member, a $25 supporter on Patreon has a lot of perks. Go do it. See you guys. See you tomorrow.